Hey everybody, we're here for an RLG cast review. I'm here with the Puttyman. Today we're reviewing Ninja Turtles, the movie, Mutant Mayhem. If you see on my hat, this is our basketball team, the Toronto Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And
And
you
I'm
know,
I'm 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 clearly wearing Leonardo
yeah,
blue.
we're
You know what I mean?
definitely prepared.
Yeah,
Definitely prepared for
Mario and Sonic, but hey, it's blue, so it fits. And you're red. You're Raphael,
yeah, there you
Leonardo.
go.
You got it. There you go.
Teenage Mutant Putty Turtles. Okay, anyways, so we're gonna give you, I guess, whatever. We'll give you a spoiler-free review first, and then we'll open the floor and talk. Because I mean, there's some fun stuff to break down.
Yep.
Also, just for next weekend, we're gonna have a tier list of all of the turtle stuff. JD will be here, Caps will probably be here, so look out for that coming. And anyways,
Mhm.
let's just talk about this. Putty, do you want to tell them what happens in this movie without spoilers?
Okay, so we are looking at a different incarnation of Ninja Turtles. This is a much more fun, a much younger audience version where the Turtles it's a different, it's a whole new franchise start. Let's put it that way. Where we do have a younger set of Turtles, but a very different type of atmosphere. So it's basically the Turtles becoming who they are in the world of Ninja Turtles. They become Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles, depending on where you're from. So.
Uh, it's funny because they do make a reference to that in
I,
this.
I I was totally gonna bring it up later. That's why I did
Okay,
it
but we'll
now.
talk
So
about that. But yeah, and it's a lot more, it's a lot closer in its storytelling to the comic book than
hmm
anything else we've got. And
well,
to
outside the
me,
first movie.
I would say this is like a combination of the stuff we got in the original comics and the stuff that we got in the first movie, because the first movie did some things different, right? It's like a
Yeah.
combination of both of those, but with the tone of the cartoon, the original cartoon.
Well,
And
that that
that way
that was
works.
well. That's why I was excited about it because I even said it before. I feel like there's gonna be people that are diehard comic book fans of the original comic book and diehard fans of the cartoon. And I feel like the people in the cartoon are going to have a little bit easier time dealing with this. It has the visual style, I would say, of the comic book, as in like it pulls you in if you like that more grittier comic book look to it. If you know what I'm talking about, that like that more I don't know how to call it, that not crisp
It
drawn.
feels graffiti.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
feels like claymation and graffiti had a baby.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the other thing. I'm going to bring this up. Animation, I love that they're taking risks with these animations now. And I think that Spider-Verse is kind of what made that happen when it comes nowadays.
But
You know
I
what I
want to
mean?
say this. I want to jump in on that because a lot of people have been saying this as I've been reading their reviews. This is not in any way derivative of Spider-Verse. So I'm so tired of seeing that this movie's copying Spider-Verse. The animation in
No,
this
no,
movie
no.
is completely different than Spider-Verse. Spider-Verse maybe opened the door to doing this, to trying new wacky things with animation,
Mhm.
but I think this looks better than Spider-Verse. I'm just gonna say it.
Well, no, I actually really liked it. I was excited for this animation. And I really feel like the characters, especially some of the characters that I really loved that they introduced, like, oh man, I'm just going to say one character, we'll get into a spoiler when we get to there because I kind of don't want to spoil some of the characters. But just to see him, I still remember to this day holding these action figures and going, man, when are we going to get this somewhere? So I feel like that's one great thing about this is that we got some of those characters that you used to play with as a kid and actually got them as finally as characters in this movie, which again, we'll get deeper into
Yeah,
that when we get
Putty
to the
got his
spoiler
Mondo
section.
Gecko. Um,
you literally knew exactly which one I
Of
wanted.
course I
There's
did, because it's the
two,
only one that would have
two.
been cool. There's because Genghis Frog, is that what we're talking about? Because that comes later.
Well, I also
Um,
like. Well, we'll
these
go
are
to
not
the other one.
spoilers because they're very blatantly just out there. Yeah, okay, I had a good time. I do
Mhm.
think if we're gonna be critical of it, towards the end, it kind of slows, even though it's like a big action sequence, it kind of slows down because there was so much story building and so
Mhm.
much good characterization for the first like 60% of the movie, and then it just gets to this point where it's trying to come to a climax and it stops doing those things in order to like finish the movie, and then while that's happening it kind of just drags. It's
Mhm.
not that it was bad, it was still entertaining, but it lost a lot of momentum towards the end for me.
Well, and that was understandable because it feels like you can kind of tell. And I would say I feel like maybe at the point where well, I don't want to do any spoilers. There was a point where when everyone was involved, if you know what I'm talking about, when they all got involved, that's when things got a little chaotic. because the thing is I liked the story they were going for, but then at the same time, there for a moment, it's like, oh, this went way over the top. You know what I mean? And when it went to the over top stage, that's when I was like, okay, now I feel like they're just trying to do something different, which I'm okay with. Not saying bad about this movie at all. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's actually one of my top ones now. But the thing is yes, I agree. It felt so rushed that even, and by the way, I'm just going to say this not to be a spoiler, but stay for the mid credits. That's all I'm going to say. But
we'll tell you about it as we go into the spoilers, but
yeah, exactly. I just want to make sure that they stay because I saw people leave and I'm like,
yeah, there is no end credit. There's no post credit, but there's a mid roll.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think if you don't agree with me on this one thing, I'm done with this review. I'm just gonna shut it off. Jackie Chan was the best part of the whole movie.
Yeah. Oh my God, him as Splinter. I was so okay. So I walked in. I had an Uber driver that took me there, and I told him, I said, I'm going to the insurance. And he go, oh, that came out already? And I go, yeah. I said, but I'm so excited for Splinter. He's like, what? Why are you so excited for Splinter? I said, I've been dreaming of the voice to play Splinter to be Jackie Chan, and they pulled it off swimmingly. Like, he is just such an entertainer. And like the one scene, I'll go into spoilers, but there's one particular scene that felt so Jackie Chan, like completely Jackie Chan. And I loved it so much. Like, it felt like you were watching a Jackie Chan movie. That's all I'm going to say.
And we'll get to that. I will save that. I was going to say that too, but you know what? You're right. Maybe we should save that. The voice acting all around is pretty good. I love that we got a lot of niche characters that we wouldn't get. There's little nitpicks that I don't want to get into in the spoiler free. Overall, I think it's a fun time. I think the soundtrack is great. I think the animation is great. I think adults and kids will love this because there's so much. There's a combination of like stuff for children as well as stuff for adults, but there's also this middle ground for like the Gen Z teenagers where they're using all their lingo words like bet and stuff like that. And when they're doing the voices in the laneway. But it's like they made a movie that's genuinely for everyone. And I think I'll score it. I think I want to give it like a 7.5 or 7.6. Something like that. I think overall it's a really good time. In my personal opinion, like I know we're gonna get to tier list land to do this, but I think this might be the best Ninja Turtles movie. It's not my favorite, but it might be the best.
I don't think it's the best because I'm still gonna put one up there, of course, but you can't help it. We grew up with it, and it was still a solid movie. I go back and
like I said, this might not be my favorite, but I think overall, as total quality of a movie, I think it might be the actual best.
Well, I don't agree with that, but I do believe number 2. I will say that. But I will say this, though. My number is 8. I already gave the score before. I really enjoyed this.
Yeah,
it is
so
one of my top.
That's
yeah. Yeah, 100%. Because, like, for example, the way I told it out there, and I'll just go ahead and say it. For me, I'm always going to love the original Ninja Turtle movie. It is a 10 in my eyes, 9.5, if I'm going to be honest with me.
It's a solid 6.
Myself. Yeah, whatever. Anyway, I love it so much because it's a cross between the cartoon and the original comic book. This feels like that. This feels that has that love. Like, you could tell. I praise Seth Rogen because even though he changed a lot of things that are different from the Turtles, especially in the storyline and all that stuff, it still is like way better than any of the other carnations. Like, I right now would say the original Ninja Turtles movie is number 1 for me. Number 2 is either going to be this or TMNT. Like, those are the top 3 in my eyes.
For me, I would say there's 3 Ninja Turtle movies that I don't like. And I'm like, I don't want to give spoilers for the tier list, but there's going to be more of us, so it's not that bad. But
yeah.
Okay, so hold on. We'll stop right here. And so if you came for no spoilers, that's it. We're going to start talking about spoilers, but I'll get this list out of the way. So if you just want to hear this, then you can leave after. But I would say the 2 Bay movies and Turtles 3 are the only 3 of the Turtles movies that aren't good. I think Turtles Forever, Batman Ninja Turtles. I think the new animated series movie, Ooze, TMNT, the original, and this are all good movies. Like, legit good movies that you should definitely check out. And the second Bay movie is a lot of fun, but it's still not a well-made movie. The first one is very odd, and Turtles 3 is a literal piece of garbage.
Oh yeah,
but I have so much nostalgia attached to it, but it's still garbage.
Well, it's funny. There's this vacuum effect that happened when it came to Turtles 3, which this is becoming a turtle conversation more than anything else. But I'm just going to put out there. There was a vacuum effect because you got to think Jim Henson was involved with the first one, and in the second one, you could tell they put more love into it, but they were like, oh, we can't have as much violence. When Turtles in Time came out, Turtles 3 came out, Turtles in Time, that's when it came downhill because then we got Turtles in Time. Then we got the concert. Remember the concert they were doing, like live tour? I actually went on that concert too. I was part of that tour. I actually got to see it live. And then you had the Christmas special we put out. That's when they were using the costumes. And then of course the
Oh
Ninja Turtles
no! And
Power
then we
Rangers thing.
got
Yeah,
the worst iteration of a Ninja Turtle
yes,
show ever.
Venus. And that's my
Oh my
point. That's when
god!
we started going down that hill of like, oh, it doesn't matter if the costumes and the animatronics are horrible. And that's when we started going down the hill of, oh God. So when we got a live action, as to say, with Michael Bay, it was nice to have something new, but it was horrible. The only thing that was good about that second movie, honestly, my eyes was Bebop and Rocksteady. Like Bebop and Rocksteady were a blast in my eyes. With Seamus and what's his name playing it, I thought they were amazing as those characters.
Yeah,
But that
I
was the
think
only thing.
it's a fun movie. I think where that movie really lost it, the Michael Bay one. I know we're way off, but it was Robbie Amell as Casey Jones had like
Jones?
nothing to do. Wait, it
Mm-mm.
wasn't Robbie Amell? No, it
What's
was
his
the
name
other
plays in
one.
Green
Amell.
Arrow?
Stephen
Yeah, yeah.
Amell. I'm thinking of his brother. Yeah, yeah, but he had like nothing to do as Casey Jones. It was odd. And then Megan Fox's character in this one is no longer like an important character, even though she's
Mm-hmm.
still there. I don't know, but it's a more fun movie, guaranteed. Okay, let's talk about this freaking movie. So, in terms of like just references, I mean, Putty has a video too. I'll link it in the description. Um, but
Can
like
I just
you,
mention my favorite one?
okay, you know what? Wait, tell us about the mid credit.
Okay, so of course, in the mid credit, we hear the I can't think of her name, but the girl that's trying to get the ooze from the turtles or get the mutation so she can make her own. Finally, calls upon the legendary villain of the Ninja Turtle world, and that is Shredder, and we see him come out of the water. Now, here's my thing about this, and this is at the mid credit scene, so that's why if you didn't stick around, you kind of missed that. Here's my thing about it. I this feels really weird, and I hope they do it correctly because if based on what you told me before, they're going to do a series, another movie now. They've already pitched, I guess, because they already know the success of this. Like, what is the relationship now? Because here's the thing. Hamato Yoshi, Oroko Saki, that whole connection is a big part of what makes the Ninja Turtles. You know what I mean? You got to think he created Bebop and Rocksteady, that kind of thing. Now that's separated. You know what I mean? There is no relation between those two at all now. So
Okay,
what
go.
is going to be the fuel for Shredder?
This
And
is what
that's what
I
I'm
think.
concerned
This
about.
is what I think. So Shredder's gonna be hired as like he's gonna be
Assassin.
a hired assassin, right?
Yeah.
And then he's gonna end up starting to build up his own power. I think what's gonna happen is we're gonna find out that Baxter Stockman is alive,
Mm-hmm.
and he's gonna convince Bebop and Rocksteady to join him and Shredder, and that's how they're gonna leave. Because to me, when they had that ending, that was one of the few things that I didn't like. I was like, this doesn't make
Yeah.
any sense. If you've read
Yeah.
any turtle lore, this would never happen.
Well,
Even Wingnut would never join them.
that you're oh my God, you said exactly Leatherhead. Here's my
Yeah,
thing.
Leatherhead hates the turtles.
And here's my other thing about that. And I don't mind that they decided to change Leatherhead into a girl. But like for those of us that grew up with Leatherhead, like in their video games and all that,
From the
Leatherhead was a vicious
Bayou.
character. Yeah, Leatherhead was a vicious
Yeah,
character.
he
They
was a
made him
Cajun
vicious.
character too, and he had
Yeah.
that Gambit voice. It might have even been the same guy that did the voice. Um,
Well, my point, the whole thing is well, no, the one that did the voice was a girl for this. If you watch
no,
it,
no,
it's
I'm
actually
saying the. I know
oh
it's Rose Byrne.
oh okay okay. But my point is this: I liked the other characters. I liked Wingnut. Good Wingnut being like every one of them being good was weird. The only one that felt good was Mondo Gecko. But I'm going to bring up another thing you didn't realize, and I didn't. I don't know if I bring this in my video. If you look at the posters, you see Michelangelo on a skateboard. Not one time do you see the turtles ride any skateboard or even Michelangelo, and the only character that rides a skateboard is Mondo Gecko. And no, I don't think anybody realizes that. And that's a staple when it comes to Ninja Turtles. Like I saw the skateboard and I was thinking Mike was going to pick it up, but Mondo Gecko ends
But
up picking it up.
I think those are all hints going forward, right? Because we do get a Casey Jones hint when he's like,
Yeah.
a guy chased me into a laneway and I beat him down to nothing. So now you have motivation for Casey Jones to hate mutants, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
we get hints at a lot of things. We do see Genghis Frog, and this is what I
Mm-hmm.
think. I think you're gonna get, like I said, a few of them are gonna leave and go help to Shredder.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're probably gonna get a Turtles team where they have Mondo Gecko and like Genghis Frog, because in the
Yep.
cartoons that was the people that they worked with, the
Yep.
Frog Brothers, which was 4
Mm-hmm.
frogs that were like the Turtles, all
Yep.
named after old warriors, but we only see
It,
Genghis Frog in
it's
this.
funny. I linked our live stream. I linked our live stream of us playing Shredder's Revenge on my
Oh
other
yeah,
channel. And in the end, they actually have all the frogs. You remember we literally brought
Yeah,
that
yeah,
point
yeah.
up when they're
We
bringing it.
beat that
And so
game
I know.
in one
Yeah, guys,
sitting.
go back. It was so great. I want to say also this: the references to old things. So, for example, they talk about TCRI, which is definitely a really close resemblance to TGRI from the old movies and everything.
Well, TCRI is the comic book.
Yeah, exactly. Well, here's my thing. I love that they did try to pick things like, for example, when they threw in like no diggity for that fight scene, it came out of nowhere. But then I'm like, okay, I'm enjoying this because it's my generation. That this is, you could definitely tell they were doing
Yeah,
that for
like
that.
I love the nods to the comic book too. Like April being black as well. In the comic book,
Mm-hmm.
she's black.
Yep.
It's not until the movie, or sorry, the animated
The comic
series,
book, yeah, or the anime series, yeah.
the
Okay.
animated series, because in the original comic, she's black. So I mean, I liked a lot of the nods to the comic, and people are stupid. Like, people are getting really mad that they changed they color or race swapped April O'Neil. It's like, dude, if you read the comic
Yeah,
books,
right.
not it, the
She
cartoon is
literally
a
was
race
black with
swap.
curl. She literally was black with curly hair with a big like fro.
Yeah,
Like it's like you and it's funny too because like I liked, for example, remember in the garage scene, they quickly go through the car and you hear the Go Ninja Vanilla Ice
yeah.
Go Ninja song in there. Little things like that, like Eastman High, Kevin Eastman. By the way, I didn't find it, and I even asked everyone in my video, was there a Peter Lard reference?
No,
Because I didn't see one. Oh,
not
I
that I
just saw the
remember.
Eastman High, and I'm trying to find. There's got to
Eastman
be a
also
reference
does
in
a
there.
voice of a random person in that.
Oh, okay. See, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah,
But
it
yeah,
was
there's a
called
lot
like
of good references.
Nice Human or something. Is was his thing, but they reference Spider-Man when they do the whole New York thing where we're New York, we're gonna stick up for you thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that was cool. There's a few little like Ghostbusters nods if you really pay attention. It's clearly a movie full of pop culture references, and this like they did a really good job with the soundtrack.
Mm-hmm.
It You have who's the guy that plays uh Shivray or so whatever his name was?
Wait, Chevrolet, what?
The Stingray character that has a
Oh no,
knife.
you're talking about Ray Fillet.
Ray Fillet. Yeah,
Yeah, Ray
and
Fillet. Yep.
that's Post Malone does his voice.
Well, there's prime examples. Like for example, you were just talking about what was it you were just talking about? You were talking about the um not the voices. Oh, but the references to other stuff and other brands. The whole music thing, because Trent Reznor does the actual music, like the soundtrack music, okay? But I love the simple nod to music that you knew they threw in those old songs, not for so the new kids would get into it, but then also for those people that grew up in the Turtles, because they come on, no diggity. All these songs they picked were literally the songs that were big back when those original Ninja Turtle movies were out, and that you could tell that was on purpose, just for someone like
Yeah,
my
and
age.
like they nailed the Ferris Bueller thing. And then when they
Mm-hmm.
were walking through the tunnel sad, the music that played was like Trent Reznor trying to get as close as possible to the song that they play when they go to the museum in Ferris Bueller.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it was like really close. And I thought there was a lot of fun stuff like that. We get the three Chris's reference,
Mm-hmm.
and it has Chris
Mm-hmm.
Pine in the Captain
So
Kirk outfit,
here come, and then there's Chris Evans, Chris Pine,
and
and
Chris Pratt was
Chris
the other
Pratt.
one. I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure it was Chris Pratt because they push it out of the way so fast you can barely see it.
but
That other
that's
one.
another thing. But that's another thing. And then now we can finally get into that. But with Splinter, like though I love him trying to get to his family, but that fight scene when he goes to rescue his sons
No,
is
and I would. That's
literally
it's funny you said that because it's choreographed like how a Jackie
uh,
Chan fight would be.
exactly when I saw that going around when he was doing the chair and all that stuff. I'm like, dude, this
I'm
is how
I'm a
Jackie
hundred
Chan
percent
fights.
sure they told him for this scene you're gonna have a fight scene. Explain to us how you would have choreographed this fight scene, and they tried to put that as the movie because you could see it when he's doing the thing with the chair and like all
Mm-hmm.
that stuff. And I love that they all were trained in martial arts, but they never used it, so they didn't know they were good at it. And then when they actually start, like you see Splinter when he kicks everyone's ass, he's like, "Holy crap, I could do this!"
But that's the
Um,
funny thing. That's
yeah,
the thing that was talking about the big change was because, like, for example, we never even got an idea of why, because he never even mentioned the Renaissance art book, like anything about naming them after Renaissance artists. And I was wondering why they never mentioned that because
but
they
I
do
think there's
reference.
like a holdover, right? Like there's more stuff is going to come out in the second one, and I think the third one is going to be about Krang. If they go to a third movie, I think it will be about Krang.
Well, yeah, because they can go the dimensional thing now with this. They can go beyond if they wanted to. But
They need
even
one full
then,
movie of Splinter, though. I mean,
I agree.
sorry, Shredder. They need one full
But
movie of Shredder.
oh, I agree. But here's my thing that I love that this did, and for some reason I understood it didn't make sense when I was a kid, but I kind of just ignored it. But this movie actually kind of proves that. So think about this: we got Superfly. I thought this was going to be Baxter Stockman, you know what I mean, or something of that sort. But you saw something different in this that I never understood in the old ones. Think about Bebop and Rocksteady. The Ninja Turtles came from Turtles and Splinter. They were animals that got bigger and became human form. But then we get Baxter Stockman, Bebop and Rocksteady. All three were humans that got turned into animals. And when you came to the movies, it was like, how do you explain that one side was a human to mutant and then one was a animal to mutant, but they still stayed in them? I don't
Well,
know.
Baxter Stockman, his original origin is similar to the Fly, where he got in the thing
Mm-hmm.
with a fly, and that's how it happened, right?
Right.
Um,
Well, that's my point here. This movie decides to say, let's just throw that out. And instead of having Baxter Stockman turn to fly, just have it be an actual fly. And that makes sense because I want to get people to understand this. That was the one thing as a kid I understood did not make sense, but I kind of ignored it. But now thinking back, there was no making sense to that. And they've been doing it for years that now I'm kind of glad that Seth Rogen realized this doesn't make sense. Let's just make the animals mutate and no human turns to an animal. And that works. I'm okay with that because that makes more sense in the
the
whole
one thing
common
that I
theme.
didn't like for that, and this is like an actual nitpick, and I can't go further than saying that, but
Okay.
it's that if you see the videos, all the other animals were tiny animals that grew big. Bebop and Rocksteady were really tiny, a warthog and a rhino. Like, how did that happen?
Okay.
Like, why were
Yeah.
they tiny? And why was the fly already large? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I said, I think that leaves the door open to bring back Baxter Stockman, and I think that's the plan because they're definitely thought ahead on this, right?
Well, that's
Because
what I think about too, because I feel like the Mousers would be a great plot line to put maybe into the TV show, and you can have them reoccurring a lot. You know what I
well,
mean?
that's what's good. So we're getting the new Batman show, sidetrack, but it's guaranteed 2 seasons. We're getting the new X-Men show, it's guaranteed 2 seasons, and we're getting the new Ninja Turtle show, and it's guaranteed 2 seasons. So I think that we're already off to a good start in the world of accepting comic books more and doing the stuff that people actually want instead
Yeah.
of giving us just dumb stuff like Secret Invasion. Um,
Yeah. Right. Good
but
callback.
yeah, I think they're also the Mark Ruffalo reference when they talk about the Hulk in Avengers Endgame.
Yes.
Um, I think there was a lot of stuff. I'm pretty sure they mentioned Batman at one point. They're like
Well,
a rat, a giant rat. It's a rat man. Would someone say Batman?
Well, like for example, okay, I'm going to go through some of the stuff here. Like for example, April O'Neil goes into Channel 6 News. That's literally been the number that the news station has been for years. The
Oh, we're gonna get
cartoon, the
Vern
movies.
for sure. For
Oh
sure, we're
yeah.
getting Vern.
Oh, I would love to get burned. If you notice, the pizza truck is probably going to become the new turtle van. That pizza truck they get towards the end, that's going to become the new turtle van. We finally got the hair call bongo from Mikey. That's fine. We referenced earlier mutant heroes. So for people that don't know, in another country, I think it's England or where's it? What country is it? I can't remember.
In the UK, they
UK,
weren't
yeah.
allowed to be called ninjas because there was making kids want to be ninjas, and also Michelangelo was forced to lose his nunchucks because a kid died playing with nunchucks, and they blamed Ninja Turtles, which then also impacted the American version because they didn't want to reanimate, so they just took away, and he took away his nunchucks, and he got that grappling hook thing,
Yep, I remember that now.
which is in
And
like
see
the
that
last 3 seasons. But they were called, what were they called? Teenage Mutant
they were
Hero
called Teenage
Turtles.
Mutant Hero Turtles. So in the movie, they actually call them. If you notice, they'll actually say on the thing during Channel 6 News, it says Mutant Hero Turtles. And I know
And
a
she
lot of people
says
would
it.
not
The
get the
girl
reference.
says it.
Yeah, yeah. And see, I knew a lot of people would not get that reference unless you're just a die-hard Ninja Turtle
Oh, I
fan.
got that
But
as soon as I heard that. I was so excited. I was like, "Oh, they did it!" I
well,
did
for
Leonardo
example,
DiCaprio meme. I was like,
yeah. Well, like for example, if you know the Superfly, I can't remember exactly what the quote, but he quotes literally since. Okay, so for those that don't know, Superfly is played by Ice Cube. So at one point, he actually quotes one of his own songs in the movie
"6 in
too,
the
like this.
morning, police at
Yeah,
my door" or
that's
whatever.
it. That's
Yeah,
it. Yes.
yeah.
So, but that's my whole point. I'm just bringing up a lot of the ones I wrote down. There's a lot more, but the whole thing is they took so many liberties at this, and I know diehard fans are like, "This is totally different." But like, dude, you have to understand, Ninja Turtles is no longer one of those things where it's set in one world. We have so many different iterations that we should be happy that they're still this big and that your kids are playing with the same thing that you did as a kid. And I'm very proud to know that the world that I saw develop and I was there from the beginning, from the comic books and everything, is now one of the biggest selling franchises and continues to be one of the biggest selling franchises. And this movie just shows that they're going to keep going strong, and I'm happy for it. And I can't
I
wait to see
really
what
like
happens.
it too because they didn't come back with a really shitty effort.
Mhm.
And you know what? I don't want to sit here and pretend like Michael Bay's movies he didn't try. I think the issue that you have with them is they tried to do something different. And similar to the Sonic movie, it received a large backlash from the fans. But unlike the Sonic movie that just changed the way Sonic looked, knowing that they
Mhm.
had a strong product, he gave in and changed so many elements of the movie. So if you watch the first movie, so much of it feels
Mhm.
shoehorned in, and you're like, it
Yep.
doesn't make any sense. The turtles are gigantic.
Well,
They
prime
have power
example.
to throw freaking cars.
Well, you remember the guy that what's his name? I can't think of his name because I've only watched the movie like once or twice. The guy that's the bad guy, but that's not Shredder. He was
Oh
going to
yeah,
become
yeah.
Shredder. Remember, he was going to become Shredder, and
He was
fans were like,
supposed to be,
"No."
but then
Yeah,
that's why
they were
Shredder's
pissed.
shoehorned in on that one.
Hmm.
And
And
then
that's
when
what
you
I
get
mean.
to the second movie, the Shredder's back, but he doesn't feel badass anymore all of a sudden. It's so odd. And he has no scars on his face, but in the first movie, his face is all scarred up.
And I'll be honest, it looked like a different actor too. I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe it was the same
It
actor,
might
but it
have
looked
been.
like
I
they
don't even
played a different
remember
actor.
at this point. But yeah, I think overall this movie there's so many fun little things. It's just and the animation is so good. Like I said, I know I used the word genuinely too much in this video, but I really do feel like this was better looking than Spider-Verse. It felt like Clay Fighter 64.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
it had that like a very claymation feel, a very stop motion animation feel without being that.
And
And it was graffiti-ish. It was rough. The
mhm.
lighting, how it showed the lights, it was like these moving like lines.
Well, see, that's the funny thing I thought about when I started watching it. I said, "Oh, this is hard to like focus on," because at first I was like, "Oh, this art style is very different." But here's the thing that this movie does a great job of. It really puts you into the art style, but then eases you in to where the art style is like, "Oh, this is amazing." Like then I think it's basically when it got closer to April is when the comfort level, because I was like, I need to see some like really human substance to see how it's going to look compared to them. And when you put April on screen with him, that's when things started popping. I was like, okay, this really pops. Like it was popping before, but like that's when I felt like this movie really has something special. And now I'm seeing where it's going with it. And you said exactly the point. The great thing about the old Ninja Turtle comic books is people don't look back and realize this. That art style is very I don't want to say janky, but it's very
It's rough.
lowbrow compared.
It
It's a
feels
rough, but
sketch.
yeah, but it's such a great art style for that time that for someone like me when I was a kid, I just thought it was the coolest thing because I felt like I could draw it. Because of that, I made Puttyman. Puttyman's literally Sonic and a Ninja Turtle combined. And because of that old art style from the old comics with the red bandanas and everything, I drew off of that comic book. I traced over that comic book. Probably a horrible idea nowadays because you think that comic's worth something. But my point to the thing is this: that was inspired me to do that, and that's because that rough drawing gave me think I could draw this, you know what I mean? So then when the cartoon all that started developing, I missed that style, and this movie gives me that style. It has that roughness around it, but not so much that it's horrible looking. It's just a very artistic approach to it that nothing else has ever done. And it honestly, F a Spider-Verse, if anything wins best anime movie, I think this should 100%. I hate to put it that way, but I think so.
Yeah. I
Okay.
mean, I do think as an overall story, I think maybe Spider-Verse is a little bit better, but I don't know if that's what they're gonna count when they're going like best animated movie. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't have anything else. Do you have anything else?
Cowabunga says it all.
All right, guys. Thank you for watching. Check out Putty's video and peace out.